Hello there, this is Jeff Hansen. I am in sunny Northern California, Silicon Valley.
And this is Arvin Paredes, and I am in Los Angeles, California.
Together, we have a combined 40 plus years of full time real estate experience as licensed brokers in California, and we're here to share and learn. And with another quick video. So, why don't you lead us off today, Arvin?
All right, today's topic is another topic that I don't think gets talked about a lot, and I think everybody handles it differently. So, when it comes to buyer broker agreements, how do you handle that? Do you use them? Do you not use them? What's the deal with them?
Buyer broker agreements. As luck would have it, I was just listening to a California Association of Realtors legal podcast. There is a legal podcast, and real estate geeks like me listen to it, but they just revised the form for the buyer broker agreement by chance. So,
Okay.
well, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's my topic, so I mean, you're the one speaking on it. You go first. Well, this look, the way I've always learned, well, honestly, I just flat out don't use them. And I probably maybe I should, but I think people around the country I think use it more, but I don't personally know a lot of people that do use it that are realtors that I'm friends with.
Mhm.
And I guess my whole thing is if someone is not going to use you, they're just not going to use you. And my other mindset is if they're not going to be my client, there's plenty of other buyers that I could be working with instead of, wasting time or brain power on them.
Well, the thought process behind it, I'm just playing devil's advocate. The thought process is that you don't want to waste time, so you want to make sure that people are committed to working with you. When one of my first real estate experiences when I was a kid, my parents moved, they only moved once as adults. They sold a house and bought a house, and their realtor was a friend of theirs. I think he did it part-time, but he was a nice guy and he was a friend. And he had this horror story about this couple that came in from out of town. He showed them house after house over many weekends and took him out in his car, and then they used a different agent. So the concept is use a buyer broker just like you have a listing signed, because you want to make sure that people don't just run the other way, right? That's the thought process behind it. Now, what's interesting about this is that in fact, you've been a trainer in the past. You've been a successful agent. You've trained agents, right? You've trained brand new agents. You've taught classes in real estate offices, correct?
Yep.
How would you train a new agent?
I'd probably tell them to use it.
Excuse me. That's what's funny. It's the same for me. So I've owned a brokerage, multiple brokerages, and been a office manager, trained lots of agents, and consulted with top agents, taught many classes, and I've always taught agents it's better to get a buyer broker agreement signed. However, I've never done it, and I've had a lot of success, and I haven't had horror stories of people just going the other way. I have had people who decided, only a couple, it's been many, many years, that decided to part ways, but they had a conversation with me about it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason that we teach people to use a buyer broker is, I think, because it forces you to have the conversation about being committed to working together. And if you don't have that conversation, you have some agents, whether they're new or not, that just meet someone in open house and they just go start showing them homes before there's any kind of conversation about, hey, are we, it's like someone that you just start um, going out, you start dating, and there's no conversation about is this a committed relationship, or right? So the buyer broker, to get someone to sign that, you have to have the conversation of, hey, here's what this means. You have to educate them about the form, and they know that they're tied into working with you. So um, that's the reason I believe the reason you use it is you're forced to have the conversation. Now, this piece of paper, just like a listing agreement, if you have the listing and the seller decides they're sick of you and they want to work with you, hard to enforce. You're probably going to cancel it anyway, right? So it's like that. The piece of paper isn't what's saving you. It's the dialogue up front about the commitment, which you can have without, and I have that conversation. I just don't have it with a piece of paper. I say, well, I'm committed to working with you. Would you agree to commit to me 100%. And if there's any problem and they say yes, and if they say no, then I want to find out what that is. And that if you ask them that, some people will say, oh, well, I just want to work with multiple agents. And you can tell them, okay, that's fine. But that's not how I work, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
up to you, but that's not my structure. In fact, I have a script that I used to kind of train agents. I've only used it a few times, but if this came up, I just haven't had it come up that much, to be honest. Most people, they just kind of get it. Um, I've asked them. I'll do the script with you, Arvin. So I know you're talking about you want to just want to go look at some homes. You don't want to necessarily commit to working with me. I understand that. I have a question. Where do you work now? What company do you work at?
I work for Apple.
Apple. How long did you work at Apple before they hired you?
I didn't.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. So they hired you, and then you went to work there. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of how I work. So you choose to hire me, and once you do, then I go to work for you. Same thing, right? First, if we find out if it's a right fit, we choose to work together, and then I'll go work for you. I'll give 110%, make sure you get a fabulous home, represent all of your needs, handle all the details, take the stress off your plate. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Let's do it. Where do I sign?
You don't have to sign anything.
I wonder what they would say though if or how do you handle it if they say, well, you're working with multiple clients. So why
You're
why
working
can't I
with
why can't I work with multiple agents if you're working with multiple buyers? I'm not your only client.
never anybody asked that, but it's like an
Yeah.
attorney. Attorneys on multiple clients, right? But when you hire an attorney, that is your attorney. You don't have three attorneys working for you at the same time, right? That's the
Yeah.
nature of, if you have someone that's I mean, any profession, you hire a contractor on your home, they're the contractor. You don't assume that, in fact, if that was the only job they had, you would be worried about hiring them, right? You probably wouldn't want to hire them if you're their only client that's using them for construction services. Same for a realtor.
Yeah, it's honestly at the end of the day, being a realtor is a very unique, it's a unique job in many different ways. And it's really hard to compare what we do to really anything else. How we
Almost
handle
anything.
how we handle conversations, paperwork to sign. Sometimes we don't get paperwork signed. We just go off verbal agreements. It's yeah, it's interesting in that way.
For sure, for sure. I mean, the more you're in the business, the better sense you have of that people are committed. This is the same with sellers. I mean, sellers just have an agreement signed. I've had plenty of un, um, you know, unexperienced agents that have issues with sellers that they work with, and they get sick of each other, right? And they have a messy divorce, even though they have a listing agreement signed. So the key for a successful working relationship is not the form you have signed. It's how what your shared expectations are, and then how well you perform on what you promised to do. What's your expectation of me? What's my expectation of you? My expectation of you is that like a committed relationship. You don't want to find out that they're not in a monogamy later. You want to find out up front, or that they want to have kids later on. You want to know that you're on the same page up front. So have an open conversation with them about, which includes how you get paid. Every buyer, I explain how compensation works. And I ask them, are you aware how realtors are paid? Usually they're like, yeah, but why don't you just tell me anyway? Okay, well, I'm paid by the seller. You don't pay anything. You can work with any agent. Someone's going to pay to represent you, even if you do all the work on your own. So when you hire me, you don't pay me. It's built in the purchase price, but I'm there to help you and represent you.
Yep,
Do you have
makes
a
sense.
favorite as kind of a script you like when you're having these dialogues with buyers initially?
Pretty much what I think what you've coached and trained me on is just, I don't, the next, I say the next step would be for us to normally sign a piece of paper that would bind us working together. But, usually with my clients, I'd rather us just kind of agree to not sign any paperwork. And I don't want that holding us working together. So if there is a problem, let's talk about it and see if we can figure it out. If not, we'll just part as friends and hopefully we can work it out if there is an issue that comes up, but if not, no
But
big deal too.
but you haven't had constant issues with relationships with buyers not working out, I imagine, right?
I can think of maybe two in the 11 years, I think. And a lot of it is because maybe they're just difficult clients and the expectations are just, kind of not aligned.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I could think of a couple. I'm not going to say that I went this whole time without having things that didn't go wrong.
But
Because
my point is,
certainly,
it's not a constant
but
problem.
people would. I never had someone that just very rarely would someone just leave and just start working with someone else
Right.
for no reason. They would email. I can remember this one engineer. He said, "Hey Arvin, I'm going to be working with this friend that I have at work who is going to be helping me look for a place." Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, just like some listings, people decide not to sell or things turn sideways, but it should be a small percent. It should be very small. And the longer you're in the business, the better attuned most people get. You want to learn to be attuned to sensing how the strength of your relationship, and of course that involves regular and open communication with them to have a sense of what's happening. So I feel a little funny on this topic, saying that neither of us have buyer's agreements signed, even though we both would recommend it. It certainly can't hurt to do it. I don't have anything against it. But the main thing is to build a strong relationship, whether you use the form or not.
I'd love to hear what people like all around the country do. I mean, I'd love to hear what the statistics are for people that do use it.
Actually, I'll share with you that you said you don't know any agents. I don't know any agents that I know well who regularly use a buyer broker agreement, even though they train agents to do it. They don't do it themselves. Now that might be just this area too. We're both in California. It might be different other places. It certainly can't hurt to do it, right?
Yeah.
But actually, I've known a couple agents that had their own sort of agreement. It was just their own form that they drew up that didn't have all the strong language about guaranteeing the commission rate and all these things, right? It was just more of a commitment. Let's sign a commitment that we commit to working together.
Yeah.
Well, I'm committed to helping people succeed and help our industry. And even though we don't have an agreement signed for people that are watching this, but people get value and they enjoy it, and it's a reciprocal agreement.
You don't need to sign anything on our channel to view our videos.
I think they're what they call free.
Yep.
Although we record 10 to 15 minute videos. Anytime someone wants to go in depth with us and get personal coaching or advice, we certainly are available. We're both full-time agents, but we also are doing this because we're passionate about increasing the professional image of our industry and helping individual agents succeed and perform at the highest level and reach their potential.
Yes, I agree.
So, well, let's wrap up. Have a fabulous rest of your day, Arvin, and I almost said my son Hamilton's name, and we'll look on to the next one.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.